Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin O'Reilly, and today I'll be presenting my final capstone project presentation, where over the course of the semester, I've crafted a federal breach notification policy for U.S. financial institutions. I'll start with a brief agenda. First, I'll cover the cyber problem and the challenges financial institutions face with breach notifications. Next, I'll introduce the proposed solution, a new policy for breach notifications. I'll follow with a policy demonstration demonstrating key components. I'll then evaluate the policy's effectiveness, followed by an overview of the policy limitations. Lastly, I'll look at future work and next steps to outline the potential for future development. So starting off, what is the cyber problem that we're dealing with here? The US financial industry is a large target for cyber attacks due to the sensitive data it holds, yet current breach notification practices are inconsistent due to varying state laws. These patchwork regulations create confusion and delayed notifications, exposing consumers to risks like fraud and identity theft. On average, organizations take 258 days to identify and contain a breach, with many waiting over 100 days to even notify customers. The 2013 Target breach shows the consequences of this legal patchwork. With over 40 million customers affected across all 50 states, Target faced the complexity of state-specific laws, each with different definitions of personal data, notification timelines, and reporting thresholds. This confusion delayed the response and increased consumer risk. The breach led to criticism from regulators and the public, proving how inconsistent state laws prevent timely, transparent breach responses. Now to move on to my proposed solution. My proposal establishes a federal breach notification standard, replacing inconsistent state laws. It requires banks to notify regulators within 36 hours and consumers within 72 hours if their data is compromised. Notifications must include clear details on the breach and protective steps consumers can take. The rule also introduces tiered penalties based on bank size and criminal liability for willful concealment. By preempting conflicting state laws, this ensures faster response times, stronger consumer protections, and a uniform enforceable standard for all financial institutions. Now it's time for the policy demonstration. The policy I created fills breach notification gaps by establishing a federal standard within Title 12 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 53, Computer Security Incident Notification. The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency will lead in terms of rulemaking, while the Federal Trade Commission, which is a key enforcer in consumer protection laws, will make sure organizations stay compliant and enforce penalties to those who don't. Given the financial sector's role, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau may also oversee. And here are some steps on the right to implement this policy. So first, the policy is primarily drafted by the OCC, the Financial Stability Oversight Council, and other agencies. Next, the policy will be posted publicly so that experts and industry leaders may provide feedback. Next, it will then be finalized and officially enforced, requiring banks to revise policies, enhance cybersecurity measures, and implement rapid consumer notifications. And lastly, with these structured steps, we eliminate state-by-state inconsistencies, reduce delays in breach response, and ensure consumers nationwide receive timely, transparent notifications, overall protecting their financial security. Now, here's a side-by-side comparison of the current Code of Federal Regulations, Title 12, on the left and my revised version on the right. As you can see, the changes are somewhat minimal, but strategically enhance the existing framework by introducing essential elements in a clear and streamlined manner. Now I'll discuss these specific changes I made to each section. The first changes I made were to Section 53.3. These updates fix gaps in breach response by ensuring faster, clearer notifications. I changed the time frame so banks must now notify regulators in a timely manner and consumers within 72 hours, reducing risks of fraud and financial harm. A 30-day maximum delay balances security with transparency. By requiring multiple notification methods, we ensure affected individuals receive timely warnings, improving consumer protection and reducing inconsistencies in breach response. When consumers receive a breach notification, it must be clear, informative, and actionable. Section 53.6 outlines specific requirements, ensuring that consumers know what happened, what data was affected, and what steps they can take to protect themselves. By enforcing a standardized format, this policy eliminates inconsistency in notification content, ensuring all consumers receive transparent and useful information regardless of the bank involved. Banks must also write these notifications in plain language, so no legal jargon or complex terms, so that every consumer can easily understand and respond to the situation. Since a major challenge in breach notifications is the patchwork of state laws, Section 53.7 resolves this by preempting conflicting state laws, creating a unified federal standard. This eliminates confusion, ensuring that consumers receive timely and clear notifications no matter where the breach occurs. While preempting inconsistent laws, it preserves state and federal regulations unrelated to breach response. This reinforces the policy's goal, streamlining protections without unnecessary legal conflicts. This penalty structure draws directly from GDPR's Article 83, ensuring that fines are proportionate to both the severity of the breach and the size of the institution. Tier 1 covers less severe violations, while Tier 2 targets repeated or willful noncompliance. By tying fines to global revenue, the model discourages neglect across institutions of all sizes. The OCC would oversee enforcement with authority to audit or escalate violations to criminal charges if necessary. This approach promotes accountability and consistency. In order for this proposal to be implemented, new federal legislation must be passed by Congress. Specifically, it would expand the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act to include consumer notification mandates and give enforcement authority to agents like the OCC, the FTC, and CFPB. By preempting state laws through the Supremacy Clause, this law would unify breach reporting nationwide, eliminating inconsistencies and empowering regulators to enforce strong, timely, and consumer-focused cybersecurity measures. Next is how this policy will be evaluated. To evaluate the proposed federal breach notification policy, we'll conduct a cost-benefit analysis to weigh its financial and reputational benefits against the costs of implementation, such as system updates and staff training. As part of this process, I interviewed 3 internal stakeholders at my current employment who specialize within the financial services industry sector in their roles. Their insights helped identify real-world compliance challenges, such as the complexity of navigating state-specific regulations, and emphasize the potential operational efficiencies of a standardized federal policy. These interviews, along with additional feedback from compliance officers and financial institution representatives, will guide the identification of practical barriers. A comparative analysis with state laws and the GDPR will further ensure the policy balances regulatory needs with industry feasibility. The goal is to streamline compliance without imposing undue burdens on institutions. And I'll read some of these just direct quotes from my interviews. So the first one is, the more variation that exists across regulations, the greater the complexity introduced in monitoring and maintaining compliance. While anything is technically achievable with sufficient time and resources, the operational burden can become significant. Next one is, one of the biggest challenges is tracking and managing compliance obligations across multiple jurisdictions. It's not just about knowledge, it's about having enough people and the right technology in place. And the last one, regulatory compliance isn't a new challenge, but the sheer volume of regulations across jurisdictions consumes an enormous amount of time, energy, and resources. Now I'll discuss limitations to the policy. There are always limitations to new policies. Legal and political resistance is a significant issue, especially from states like California, for example, that have strong data protection laws. Additionally, a one-size-fits-all approach may not suit regional differences in breach risks or institutional resources. Smaller financial institutions could also face disproportionate compliance burdens, but hopefully with a tiered approach to response, this wouldn't happen. In addition, enforcing a federal standard could increase regulatory costs and lead to inconsistent enforcement across states. These challenges show the complexities of implementing a unified policy, but also demonstrate the need for a balanced approach that considers both national and local concerns. And finally, I'll talk about any future work and next steps. While the proposed federal breach notification policy provides a solid foundation, several key areas require further exploration. First, we need to monitor compliance post-implementation, particularly how institutions meet notification timelines and the impact on consumer trust. A cost-benefit analysis for smaller institutions is also essential to ensure that compliance burdens are manageable. Additionally, examining the impact of federal preemption on state laws will be crucial, especially for states with strong protections like California, for example. Finally, comparing the US approach with GDPR can offer insights into improving notification practices while minimizing compliance burdens. I appreciate you all for taking your time to watch this presentation. Thank you so much. And here are some references.